Hey, what's up? It's Scott the Frozen Gamer, and I am really close to the camera today because we are doing a little bit of a different kind of video. We're not talking about board games, but we're talking about something board game adjacent. Painting. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I have very little visual artistic skill. If you see me play telestrations like Trey, you know. This is me going headfirst into it. I started at the beginning of this year, 2025, and just decided I'm gonna paint. I'm sick of gray minis, I'm gonna paint them. And I got Army Speedpaints 2.0 to do them because I just wanna go as quick as possible and make them look better than like what a little kid could do. Make them presentable so I'm not embarrassed to take them out on the table, but they do not need to be perfect. I just wanna get them done as fast as possible. So let's get into it and I'll talk. I went through and I painted the whole Cthulhu Death May Die Fear of the Unknown box. And I'm gonna go through every figure that I painted, at least a representation of every figure from my least favorite to my favorite. So let's start here, and we're gonna start with my least favorite, which was Ruth Weber from Germany. She's got a little book in her hand with the orange, like camel hair, vest and pants, wingtip shoes, black coat, black beret. And here is how mine turned out. This is by far my worst one. So with speed paints, they have pigments that they're very watered down. So the pigments kind of go into the recesses and get nice shadows while the rest stay out on the top and get nice highlights on them. So it's really easy. But what happens sometimes, as you can see on the camel hair orangey color, is that they get these things called coffee stains, where it looks like coffee stains, where the paint pools up and then it's really hard to fix it once that happens. Her face didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to. Come on. Focus, focus, focus. Her face didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to. Her glasses ended up looking more like steampunk goggles than glasses. The red tie, I accidentally hit the coat and her vest, so the red got all messed up for her tie. Everything just kind of went wrong with this one. This was like maybe my fourth human I did. And then when I dry brushed, I over dry brushed her arms. So I used all speed paints and then I dry brushed with a dry bone color. And so that kind of got too white there. And so even after I was done painting and went into the dry brush, even that went wrong with that one. So by far my worst. Don't care, I could like restart over with her. It's not like speed paints are pretty thin, so I could easily redo it all, but not worth the time for me. Next up is the Unnameable. That's the reference right there. So this is like the pale green skin with like kind of a reddish tentacles on them. So here is what mine looks like, and it looks very much like the reference. It's just, it's really washed down looking. And for a guy that's like all supposed to be slimy tentacles, he got really washed down. I usually do a close, I have matte varnish, but I usually do it close and it gives a kind of a wetter appearance. And I try to do that for the guys that should look a little wet. And this one just didn't take it for that reason, for some reason. And it just looks really dry and washed out, which does hit the reference really well, but just not what I was going for on it. So I mixed up that green to get that light green. I washed it down with medium and some white. I did the kind of purpley orangey tentacles, reddish tentacles, and then I gave it a chrome color crown on them that I mixed with another color of paint as well. So that is the Unnameable. Not my favorite. Didn't turn out, it looks fine. Didn't turn out the best though. Next up is Sally Withers from New York, kind of like a military photographer. And again, we got coffee staining on her kind of throughout. It just kind of pooled up. This again was one of my earlier ones that I did. I only did 3 practice minis before I just decided to jump right into my Cthulhu Death May Die stuff. I was surprised how well I got that line down her back, that brown strap down her back, to be honest. But the camera just looks like a big black blob. Might as well be like Pandora's box. The whites and silvers of the reference did not show up when I tried them on here. So yeah, just not my favorite model. From far away, she looks fine. So when we play the game, she's gonna look totally fine. But when you look at it up close, there's lots of deficiencies on her. So that is Sally. Then we got the Amorphous Scion. This is one of the sidekicks to one of the big baddies, Sathagwa. And he's just basically like this blackish gray blob with a green like a greenish tinted mouth. He's kind of looking that way. So you can see the greenish tinted mouth there. So that's what I tried to do. I just used black paint on him, black speed paint. And then my mistake was I did the green mouth over the black, and you can barely see it there. It's barely noticeable that it's green. So he's just mostly looks like this black amorphous blob. So not the most exciting mini to paint. It was really quick to paint. It probably took me about 5 minutes to paint, but not exciting. Now they start getting better in my opinion. So this is Yathan, and he is like this little beast, white beast with brown going down him, whitish brown, and then he's got that horn coming out the top with hair, brown hair coming down the sides there. And that's what I got here. The brown on top, I over dry brushed again, so it turned out to be gray, but the dry brushing really does bring out the textures. This one looked really matted, especially the hair on the side of his head looked like just like paint pushed down onto the model. And the dry brushing really did give a little bit of added texture on him. The horn, I just used pallid bone paint color, and it really got a nice color on the horn. I did add a little blood, which I don't think you can see right on the tip of it, and then he's got that bright red tongue. And he looks a lot like the reference did, except that the brown is darker on the reference. Next up is Agatha May from Chicago. She's like a little gangster. I don't know if you can tell on here, but it's like a black dress with gray shirt underneath, and the black dress has kind of got a green to it. She's got these wingtip shoes like our first model did, which I didn't show, and then a black hat with like a little white band around it. So here is the model of Agatha May, and I mixed black with like a lot of dark green, and it kind of, I don't know if you can tell here, but in person you can definitely tell that there's like a greenish hint to the black, which is really cool. It's a lot of gray and black though, so it's not my favorite model. Her hair is black, so that braid down the back of her back there is black as well. And the one thing I like is that the wingtip shoes came out a lot better on her than on my first model. So that is Agatha May. Here's the wingtip shoes on my first model, which just looks like I capped them with black on the toes. Really not that great. Next up is Stella Fontaine from France. She's a scientist, white lab coat, bright purple dress underneath. She's got this little beaker with blue liquid in it, and then she's carrying like a little test tube up there. And that's basically what my model turned out to look like. And again, it's not the cleanest. Her face isn't the best, and her legs aren't the best. They're kind of blotchy and coffee stained a little bit. But the purple really pops out, and then the little bit of blue, if you can see the blue there in the beaker, that's angled, so I made the blue kind of angle in towards me. This is a really cool touch, and she looks really good in person, especially from a distance. When you get up close, you see all the flaws again, but from a distance, she looks pretty dang good. And that purple really pops underneath the white lab coat, which I did paint white. Next up is the Ghast. So this guy is this little humanoid-looking, ghouly-looking guy. A lot of browns in him. So what I did with him was, here's his backside. I used a lot of dark brown on his back. And then as we spin around to the front, I used some pallid bone and a little bit of green and some like pink in him as well, or light brown and pink, I think. And the reason I did that was I wanted it because he's hunched over. Here's from the side. He's hunched over, so the sun is hitting him constantly from this side. So he's all like sunburnt on this side and got it like really tanned on this side. Well, that's more of his natural, nasty flesh color on there. So I might have used some Crusader skin color as well. There, I can't remember exactly, but I really like the way that he turned out to be this kind of nasty flesh color on the inside with this tan on the outside. Next up is the Dancer of Azathoth. This is Azathoth, the big bad's little minion. And so in the picture, you can see that he's kind of green and purple. And then he's got this little trumpety horn type thing that actually goes through his body and out the back of his head. Kind of gruesome. And this was the first model I did from Cthulhu Death May Die, my first non-practice model. And what I did was I did a green, and then I did, it was like way too green, and I did purple over him, and then he became too purple, so then I did green over the purple, and it kind of got that greenish and purple look that I kind of almost exactly wanted for him. I did some red eyes to have him pop a little bit, and then the gold chrome really, really stands out with the horn that goes in his hands and out the back of his head, right where my pinky is there. Yeah, and he turned all of those models, there's 4 of them, turned out really well. Then, next up is the other side of this card, which is the cultists. And in this version of the game, the cultists on the card here are kind of like a purpley color with gold, but they're always bright red. The bases start out bright red before I primed them white, and so it's bright red plastic. And I went with that traditional red look on them, and there's 3 models, and I'll show you them all real quick. So this is the reference model one, where they're holding a sword across their hand. They have the gold little face mask, gold down the front there on the inside of the robe, and then the belt, and then the little rope of the belt coming down the back. And the rest is red. And it was a pretty easy model to do. We got some skin color, and then the silver chrome for the weapon. Then we got this one where I could forgo the face, which was nice because it was really tucked up underneath the hands and that dagger. And then it's the same pattern for the rest of the body. And then the last one is slightly different because they're carrying a book. So I did like a dark brown mix, I think. No, I think I just did like a dark brown for the book cover, and I might have added a little bit of medium to it to make it a little bit not quite as dark. And then on the front I used pallid bone to make it kind of like old weathered pages of this old mystical book that the cultists read from. Next guy's really fun. It's Leon Barnes from Miami. And he's like the dude from The Big Lebowski. He's got the khaki shorts, the white shirt, a pinkish orange lei, and then he's got that like cyan color, turquoise cyan color Hawaiian shirt with like greenish, yellowy floral pattern on it. So I did my best to do that. That wasn't easy. The one thing down on him that I didn't like was his undershirt, kind of the white turned really gray on it. I overdid it, and my white that came with this Army Speedpaint 2.0, if I didn't say that, that's what I used on all of these. Army Speedpaint 2.0 with some dry brushing after, and that came out more gray than white. The khaki shorts came out really well. The skin color came out really well. It may have emphasized his muscles a little too much. The pigments may have gotten in there a little too much. But then you can see the lei, that pinkish lei with the orange that I added to it. So it's pink and orange. And then you can see more on the back side how I did the Hawaiian shirt. I used like a turquoise color, and then I did like a greenish yellow circles around it because that's about as best as I could do with speed paints. Because speed paints want to run a bit. They don't want to just sit on the material. They want to run and get into the crevices. So the best I could do was little circles. And it kind of gave that Hawaiian shirt pattern to him. And he's just like a fun dude. And his glasses turned out way better than my first glasses that looked like steampunk goggles. Next up is Gug. He's got like that vertical mouth when the tongue sticking out, and then the rest of them is just like white with brown fur. And here is the model. This is my first big model that I'm going to be showing you, and I was really impressed with how I got that deep red in between all of those teeth there. I was surprised that that stayed in there without getting all over the teeth itself and have like lipstick stained teeth. And then I just used that deep red to finish out the tongue. The teeth, I did a pallid bone color. I didn't want them to be bright white. Then for the fur, I did like, I think I started with like a white and then did some gray over it. And then I did like a darker gray where the fur tufts up more. So like through here and on the top of his head and the top of the arm. And then to get some of that detail, because it did look very glossy even after I did a dry matte from far away, it still had some gloss and the paint just looked like pushed into it. So I did do some dry brushing on there. And again, I don't know if I said it, but I used skeleton bone no matter what the color, because I only have that for acrylic paints. And for my non-speed paints, I only have skeleton bone color. So I just use it super, super lightly on it. And it gives a nice texture to the models and gives those highlights that allow that nice texture. If you do it too heavy, then it comes out and looks dusty, or gray, kind of like I overdid the sleeve on that worst model that I did there with the dry brush, and it turned out looking like dusty gray. Next up was a cool one. That's the Serpent Man. So it's the Snake Man. He wears like this whitish colored tunic, like yellowy white tunic, and then has gold, like belts and a gold dagger coming out right there. So the way I wanted to, how I imagined him was more of like this Egyptian snake type of guy. So what I did was I wanted the green of the serpent, but then I wanted him to look like the whole thing to look a little gold. So I mixed the green with the chrome gold before I painted him on, and it you can see it on the skin there, how it looks kind of green and gold at the same time, and that has a really cool effect. I used palette bone and gold mixed together. And a watered down gold, or a medium down gold. Sorry, not watered down, but medium down gold for his clothes. And then I just did a pure chrome gold for his like weapons and belts. There you can see that dagger coming out there, which really pops in person with that chrome gold. And then I gave a nice red tongue. But I really like the way that this turned out to be kind of all has a gold glimmer going throughout the whole model on all 4 of them, or all 5 of them. This one took longer, took a long time to mix the paints and get them the way I wanted them to look. So this one did take me longer to paint these 5 models. Next up is my first huge one, and that's the Dolly. Whoops, let's show you the model first, or the reference. So he's got a white face, and then the rest of him is just kind of greenish looking. So I did the white face with the gray going down the front, and then the rest of them is just kind of green, and I sprayed them up close with varnish to get them a little bit more shiny, to make them look a little bit more wet. One thing that I love that happened with this one, which was a mistake, was I did the mouth red, the tongue a bright red, and then the inside of the mouth more of a blood red, or like a deep red, which kind of turned out pinkish looking. But then I got too much on, and it dribbled out the side of his mouth on both sides and gave this Joker looking effect. I did not plan for that, but I actually love it. It just looks more gruesome that way. Like it looks like the Joker, and I love the way that turned out. And it was a lot of different layers of green on there. I did some green and gold or yellow over the tops of those little spikies. Things here, darker green and lighter green there, and then mixing grays and whites here. I think I left the teeth just using the primer, the white primer that I used on them. I didn't even paint over those to get a nice white, because sometimes the white that comes with the speed paint set that I got, that has about 20 bottles of paint in it, turns out to be grayish. So I really wanted that to pop white, and I just left it the primer color. And then the eyes on these, I did a purple eye over a silver chrome. So I painted them silver chrome first and then gave a little bit of purple on top of them, or gray. It might have been gray on this guy, just to give them a little bit of a more shiny effect. Next up is probably my favorite character in the whole game by looks, and that's Mike Kozlov from Russia. He's like the old-timey weightlifter, strong man. And so here he is. He's got his thing. He's got his little metal bar going across there. And he was a really easy guy to paint because he only had a couple colors, brown for his boots and belts, and then his skin color, and then the purple unitard thing, and then the silver for the paint. One thing that I love that I did here that's on the reference is I added brown, which looks like rust on his metal bar. It might have been supposed to be blood, but I wanted it to look like this old rusted out metal bar that he's been using for his entire life to lift weights with. And he just turned out, the purple really went into the recesses really nice on it, the dark purples, and then it looks really highlighted really well. The speed paints worked great on this guy. And he's got his little mustache. I know my son loves his little mustache that he had, that I gave him. And yeah, man, he turned out pretty well, and especially from far away. Again, I am not a professional. I just wanted these to look serviceable. And so some of these turned out, like these ones towards the end here, turned out way better than I ever hoped. So next up is Sandra Akinson. And what she did, she's from the UK in the game. And what was challenging about her was to get this like kind of really mint green, this light mint green color shirt, because there's no paint like that that comes with the speed paints. So I took a green and mixed it with white and then used the medium to water it down a ton. And eventually I got it to look very minty green, that very light mint green. And I was really happy with how that turned out. And I was really happy with the way that the pants and the boots, the browns are very distinct looking. Everything's really clean on her. And then the backpack, the dark green backpack, doesn't blend in too much with the lime green shirt, and the same with the green beret. And she just turned out exactly how I wanted her to. From far away, she looks great. From up close, she looks really good. The colors really did well, getting into those recesses again and really making the folds of the clothes look nice on her. Then we got Hui Kong from China. He's kind of our like martial arts master. He's got that kind of orangey, light orangey robe or shirt with brown pants underneath, the laced up boots, and then the white hair. So here's my model of Hui Kong, and you can see that the orange, really, I mixed pallid bone and orange together, and then I think I used the medium to get it even lighter shade on it, and it really picked up in the creases of the clothes so well with the darker, almost brownish color, and same with his pants, and it shows a lot of movement and texture in his clothes, and I just love it. I did my best on the lace-ups of the boots. It didn't turn out as well as I hoped. That was really tricky, but it's kind of there. And then for his hair, again, I didn't paint it white. I just left it with the primer color for his hair because it really pops out as really white, and I wanted it as stark white as I could be. So I just left it the way with the primer, and then I varnished over. So that is Hui Kong. Next up is a fun one. It's our Mad Doctor Jacob Peters from Germany. And as you can see, he's got his white lab coat on with blood all over it and blood over that hacksaw or bone saw or whatever that is. And he's got the bright yellow hair, or like kind of the reddish, not bright yellow, reddish hair color, kind of strawberry blonde. So here we go, and here is my model. And I went thicker with the blood because I really wanted to show off that Mad Doctor look. But I did paint his coat white with the white color, with some medium in it to help it stay white and give it a little bit more texture than if I just left it with the primer color. You can see I did some blood on the saw there. And then there's blood all over his face and the side of his coat where nearest the saw. And I know there's techniques like with toothbrush and stuff where you can kind of splatter it on and make it look like a blood splatter, but I didn't have a toothbrush and I was downstairs. I didn't want to waste a toothbrush. So what I did was I just took a little bit of red paint on my thumb and just flicked it like that. And it flicked it on, and it did a pretty good job of just getting like lots of little drops all over. It did get one pile on there, and I kind of just rubbed it out a little bit and spread that out a little tiny bit just to get that so it wasn't one giant blob, and it kind of came two blobs, which I thought was cool looking, and then a little bit on his face, which was fine, and then I just did the kind of a yellow and orange mix for his hair color, and yeah, man, he turned out really cool, really mad science looking. Not mad science, Mad Doctor looking. So next up is my first big bad, and it is Sathagwa. So he's kind of this like froggish looking dude. He's kind of got yellow skin, yellowish furry skin with like these gray splotches all over him, which might be just his skin or fur color, but I kind of wanted to see him as like kind of this like mold or like this, yeah, this like nasty like mold growing over his skin. That's kind of how I envisioned it. So here's what my guy looked like. I added red lips, which makes him look really comical. I kind of look like it. He's got this movie star smile as well because I just left that white primer. I don't know if I should have done the red lips, but it was funny and I just kept it. I could have gone over it with yellow again and tried to tone that red down, but it was funny. So he's kind of got this movie star smile, but the skin turned out really well with the yellow, and then there you can see that gray splotching. That's just nasty. One thing I don't love that I did was the eyes. His have yellow eyelids with just a little bit of blue inside, and I did the little bit of blue inside, and you couldn't tell. So then I went blue for the whole eyeball, but then it looked really weird. So then I did gray over the eyeball because it was too late to do the yellow over the eyeball, over the blue. And it just didn't turn out the best. I know some people actually put eyeballs on theirs. If you look online, you'll see actual eyeballs, which isn't in the reference, but you can see like the pupils of the eyes. I didn't want that because I wanted to try to keep mine as close to the references as possible, but it does look really cool with the eyeball, like actual pupils of the eyeballs in all the eyeballs on the body. Did some chrome for the feet, And then we did some dark brown rocks that he's sitting on. And then dry brushed the wings to help get those highlights to pop out a bit more on the wings, and that's what he looks like. So my guy's kind of goofy looking, which is why he's not my favorite. This took up tons of paint, all that texture here with the gray and the yellow and the orange colors. I mixed a bunch of different colors together and did a bunch of different layers there to get that effect on his back, and then dry brushed it to help get more texture into it. So you can really see those highlights on each end of each little clump of fur. But that took a ton of paint and a lot of time to not leave any like big white blank spots on them there. Next up is we're almost done, is the Fisher from Outside. He's this bird-like creature with a red eye, and he's just really dry looking, his whole body. So that's what I was going for, and I used a lot of palette bowing on these guys, mixed with some other colors in some spots, especially on the back. I kind of made it a little bit darker and did a little bit more of an orange just to kind of vary it up a little bit. And then I gave him that bright red eyeball down the center of his eyes, and then a bright red tongue as well. It's kind of orangey in the pictures, but I went with kind of a reddish color on that. And he just looks really dry and like brittle, and even I was afraid when I put the varnish on that it would lighten him up a little bit, but it really did stay matte colored with him. And the other one of them, they both look great. They both look like they could just crumble in your hands, which is the look I was going for on this one. Whoa, almost did just crumble. Next up is my last human, and that is Julian Dunk, the little boy from Yugoslavia. And he has the blue shirt, the green pants, brown boots, and brown hat, and he's got a little stick that he's holding behind his back. And here's my version, and I just find this guy to be absolutely adorable with his blue shirt, his green pants, his little hat, and then there's his stick. You can see that it might be used for a slingshot or something else. And he just reminds me of like a Precious Moment figurine or a Yadro, if you know those figurines. He just looks so adorable. It turned out really well. The paints worked really well with this guy, and really can see all the textures and highlights and shadows and everything. So it just turned out super, super great, and I just love this figure. He is so adorable, and that's my number 2. So there's only one left if he's my number 2, and that's the other big bad, and that is Azathoth. So you can see his tentacles are like greenish purple, and then he's got that purple kind of core with kind of that orangey pink coming out of him, and that's kind of his whole deal. So this one, most of these took me anywhere from like 10 minutes to 30 minutes to do per model. And this one took me about an hour. And here's my final thing. So first I painted every eyeball with the chrome silver, and then painted over them with blue to really make them pop and shine a little bit. And then I did all the tentacles next, and I did them with a light green, and then painted a dark green over them where I needed the dark greens to come out, because with light green it just looked like Slimer from the Ghostbusters, so we needed some color texturing there. And then I did this purple center last. So I did it all purple first, and then once that dried, I did some orange over the purple to get some of that lighter color in there. And then from there, I did a bright red in the middle, which you really can't tell. It almost looks white in the middle, but I really loaded that up with bright red, and it really gave that nice flowering effect of purple coming out. And then the purple comes out and goes onto the tentacles the most, right from where that flowering comes out is where I have most of the purple on the models, on the tentacles. And he just turned out, this was my last one I did, and it took a ton of time, as I said, about an hour, and he turned out better than I could have hoped for. And I know I'm not a professional by any means. I've said that multiple times. I'm not looking for perfection. Usually I'm a perfectionist. I wasn't looking for perfection on these. I just want to get these done because I want to go to my other boxes and get these all done. And the main thing was I'm just sick and tired of playing with gray plastic in my games. This is boring to me. You can't even tell what the heck this is. It's really hard to see any details on it other than like the holes in the wings. But you can barely even tell that's a dragon from looking at it. When it's just gray. And I really want to add, this game has so much story and so much theme in it, Cthulhu Death May Die, I really want to crack into it and really make the models have some personality as well. And so again, if I can do this, I mean, this is sloppy. There's tons of mistakes on almost every one of these models. But if I can do this with my limited artistic skills, anyone can do this. Speed paints are great to start with because they just do all that. If you want to go quick, they do all that highlighting and shadowing work for you. You don't need to go back over with highlights and shadows. I did add some dry brush, as I said, to get some of those textures out a little bit more, like the fur, but again, you don't need to. And again, I don't get if I'm dry brushing over green, I don't even use like a light green over the dark green. I just use a very, 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 very tiny layer of the skeleton bone just to kind of highlight the very ends of the model, as long as I don't overdo it like I did on a couple models like this one where that dark brown ended up turning a little dusty gray brown looking. But yeah, if I can do it, you can. I'll go and show the next boxes as well, probably, as I go through. I'm going to be doing the Season 4 box next. I have all my characters out, ready to get primed. Then I'll go over there. You can't see it on camera, or maybe you can. I'm going to do the unknowable box, and then if I can, and way over there, hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have all my final girl stuff painted as well. And then I'll go into some of the minis that are just in a couple of the other random games that I have minis on. But yeah, I'm excited. It's really relaxing. It's really fun to do this. It is an investment to start with, but if you want something relaxing and you're just sick and tired of gray minis, man, go for it, because it's just nice to do. It improves the game so much. Like, this is so much better than having these guys, which is unpainted for Cthulhu Death May Die. That's it. I'll see you next time. Peace. Stay cool. Stay cool. Just got that game. I'll talk to you later. That's it. Later.